So who's going to win West Bengal in this election? Of all the states that are currently going to polls, I find this fight to be the most interesting. We're calling it Didi versus Delhi, and through the course of this video, we'll understand everything that we're talking about. But what this effectively is the ready reckoner of the entire election contest in West Bengal. So if you've been busy with other stuff and you want someone to quickly tell you what's going on, everything is in this video. So you can settle down and watch this video and you'll know what's going on, who's going to win this very, very crucial state. Now, before we go further, please like this video and share it if you think it's useful. Subscribe to our channel, and if you're so inclined, please sign up for our membership. We have a bulletin that goes out every night that most of our members are finding very, very useful. So I do hope that you will sign up and sample our offering as well. All right, let's get to Bengal, right? So Bengal is a really important state, and I'll tell you why. For the RSS and the BJP, West Bengal and Kerala are the two, have always been left-centric states in their personality. It's really important for them to make, to be able to establish a base in these two states. And West Bengal is something the BJP has been working very, very hard on for a very long time. So to give you an idea of the basics, the West Bengal election will be held in two phases in April. So today we had the first phase, that was 23rd, and the second phase on the 29th. Results is on the 4th of May. Now it's 294 seats. The last time Bengal voted, which was 2021, I'll give you a breakup of those seats. The TMC won that election very comfortably with 213 seats and 48% of the vote share. The BJP, though, won 77 seats with 38% of the vote share. So I just want you to take a minute to look at this breakup, right? So even though the seats are actually quite wide in the difference, the vote share is not. It's only about a 10% difference in vote share, and it is that 10% that the BJP is hoping to bridge. Because if you remember the history of West Bengal specifically, from independence there was Congress for several decades, then there was the left, and the left was broken by Mamata Banerjee, who has been chief minister now for 15 years. And the BJP, after those 77 seats, and became the main opposition, and that was a great victory for the BJP. They're now going to be looking at actually winning the state this time. So among the Bengali players, the biggest player of all is obviously Mamata Banerjee. She broke the left, like I told you, in 2011. She has been chief minister for 15 years. So she's battling 15 years of anti-incumbency, which is a lot, right? Because there's fatigue among the voters. Normally people want a different idea at this point. They want to hear from someone different. They want a different idea. Her government has also been criticized of corruption, law and order issues, governance issues, the lack of women's safety after the RJ card rape and murder case that happened inside of that medical hospital. So there are all of these things that Mamata Banerjee is currently dealing with. But she also, I have to point out at the same time, has a very strong political base. She has very strong support specifically from women because of the developmental projects that she's done, targeting women, targeting minorities, targeting the farm sector. So she's also, of course, pushing the idea of the insider-outsider. And it's been very central to the TMC campaign that the BJP is a North Indian party, and they're trying to bring in their idea of Hindi speaking, vegetarian, a certain type of India, and that insider-outsider is at the core, at the heart of Mamata Banerjee's campaign. So she's calling them the Delhi party. There's been a lot of poking of fun on the accent, about the fact that they don't speak Bengali fluently, they don't understand culture, literature, history. Remember, Bengal is the land of Tagore, of Swami Vivekananda, of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. And so recently there was an incident where UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath mixed up a quote from Subhash Chandra Bose, and he said that Swami Vivekananda said it, which he did not. And then of course the entire TMC came up and said, oh, you don't really understand us, which is the basis of their entire argument. They're also pushing this idea that the BJP will promote a vegetarian sort of upper caste food culture, which the BJP is refuting constantly, and to a point where some of their leaders are actually eating fish curry on camera, saying that, hey, we eat non-vegetarian food, we're okay with it, because fundamentally you cannot separate a Bengali from their fish and their mutton curry, right? So it's become, so these are the things that have become like, interesting sort of undercurrents and part of the campaign. The idea that TMC has accused the BJP of pushing Hindi, Hindu, Hindustan as a model, whereas the TMC is framing itself as more inclusive, saying that we are a different kind of Hindu from the Hindu that the BJP is pushing. We are more Durga Puja Hindu, we are a Sufism Hindu, we are a ball culture Hindu. While they're pushing the idea that while we are deeply Hindu, we're not the kind that they're bringing in from North India, claiming, of course, that the BJP's idea is more rigid, it is more upper caste coded, it's not reflective of Bengal's traditions. The TMC is framing itself as a protector of minorities, as basically protecting the plurality of Bengal, the fact that everybody eats together, that everybody is friendly, that everybody coexists. There's also the pushing of the idea that the BJP is using central agencies, the ED, the CBI, the election machinery, all in its favor to break Bengal. And so Mamata Banerjee calling to the people of Bengal to stand up against the election commission, to stand up against the ED, to stand up against sort of the bullying that she sees coming in from Delhi. The main, of course, the biggest aspect that this whole election has been taken over by is the SIR controversy. So here's the thing, right? Given the level of anti-incumbency that Mamata Banerjee was fighting, it could have been a great opening for the BJP, except from what we understand on the ground, the SIR controversy, and I'll go into the whole thing, has actually built sympathy for Mamata Banerjee, where people feel like they have to sort of protect her. As a Bengali, and we'll talk about that a little more. So this could have been an election where we were talking about governance and corruption and the lack of ability to deliver jobs, that the TMC has failed to deliver jobs to Calcutta and to Bengal, and people from Bengal having to leave and go live in other parts of the country, which makes them very sad. That should have been the mudda, but it's not. SIR has become the mudda. And on that note, I always feel like, so colleagues of mine who moved to Bombay or moved to Delhi from Bengal to work are always pining for home. They're always pining for Calcutta. They're always pining for Durga Puja, right? And so it's a big deal that there are not enough jobs in Calcutta or in West Bengal for them to work. The fact that they have to leave home and they have to be so sad about it could have been a great stance to take on this election, but the SIR has hijacked everything else. Let's look at the BJP side and their campaign, right? So from the 77 seats that the BJP won in 2011, it is now looking, of course, to win the state and form the government. And the campaign is aggressively being led by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself, who has spent a lot of time in the state. Most of the BJP top brass has campaigned as well. And the focus issues for the BJP has been infiltration, what they're calling Guspetias, right? Infiltration, citizenship, law and order, and the governance failure. So the idea that basically there are infiltrators from Bangladesh being brought in, who are going to overrun Bengal, and they're being brought in to create a minority base that will vote for the TMC, and there's a law and order issue, and there's a lot of illegal immigration that is being solved by the cleanup that the BJP is currently doing. This is what is being brought up. That's the line of attack that is actually consolidating at this point. Migration, citizenship, local identity. So this election is really about two different political messages. So on one hand, Mamata Banerjee is asking Bengal to see this as a fight to protect its social fabric, its democratic rights and its identity. The BJP is telling the people of Bengal to see this as a chance to vote out corruption, vote out the disorder, the minority appeasement, replace it with stronger government, a tougher stance, a double-engine sarkar. And that is actually what the two campaigns are bringing at this point. It is converging at the SIR, or that special intensive revision of electoral rolls, which has become the main mudda of this election. So now let's talk about this, right? According to reports, the SIR has deleted 91 lakh names from the voter register in West Bengal. That's more than 10% of the entire electorate, which means that everybody knows someone who's been knocked off the list. And 1 in 10, at least 1 in every 10 people knows someone who's knocked off the list. So every Bengali has a family member, a friend, some sort of anecdotal evidence about, I know this person who has voted for like 40 years and is now not on the list. And so there's a lot of that word of mouth conversation going around. Now the officials say that many of these people are either dead, or these are duplicate names, or people who have shifted out of the state. but it doesn't seem to be the whole story, because a lot of the ground reports tell us a very different thing. 27 lakh people have challenged their removal, saying that they have the right to vote and they have all of their paperwork. So they're showing up at these appellate tribunals where they can make a challenge with all of their documents in the peak of the summer, saying, I want to vote this time. Bengalis from across the country, are flying back or are traveling back to Bengal to vote, because they feel that if we don't vote now, we'll actually get knocked off the list, and we need to go and make sure that, we need to secure our position. There's also a fear of the fact that if you are not considered a voting citizen, that at some point in the future, will you not be considered a citizen at all? And so there's a lot of fear that is getting baked into the idea of being left off the rolls. Now, according to multiple reports, many people were unable to restore their names from the list, and this has led to a political and legal firestorm. The matter is before Supreme Court, and Supreme Court actually in an oral observation at one point said, yes, if your name is not on the list, it's not like it's going to be forever, it will get reinstated. But in the process of reinstating, what about this vote? This fundamental right to choose your government is being taken away in this particular election. So the SIR is being justified by the central government as a way to clean up the voter list, to remove all the so-called infiltrators. And this is where the nervousness is coming in, is people are like, am I going to be considered an infiltrator if my name is not on the list? But the critics say the speed and the scale and the pattern at which it's being done raises a lot of questions. A lot of questions have been asked about the fact that disproportionately it appears like the Muslims and other minorities have been affected by this cleanup. Opposition leaders have called it an assault on democracy itself. One of the Trinamool Congress MP, Sagrika Ghosh, said this is a constitutional crime. Now, it's not abstract. Let's actually take a look at some of the numbers, right? In the first phase, the election, the voting that happened today, more than 3.6 crore voters voted across 152 constituencies. They were eligible to vote, which means lakhs of people should have been able to cast their vote. In 16 districts that voted in the first phase, we understand 9.4% of the people were not able to vote because of the SIR exercise. So almost 10% of the population was not able to vote. Apparently in Murshidabad and Malda, this was the most stark. In Murshidabad, 7.5 lakh voters were not able to vote. In Malda, 4.5 lakh people were not able to vote. The anger over these deletions led to an extraordinary protest in Malda, where judicial officers were actually barricaded inside a government office for hours. They were basically held hostage by the people. And perhaps the starkest example came from Shamsherganj, a constituency described as ground zero of this crisis, where 74,775 voters, about 32% of that entire electorate, were disenfranchised. It's an extraordinary number to say that we're going to clean up the rolls, and you've cleaned up a third of the entire rolls. And that is why this has become such a massive controversy. Of course, it went to Supreme Court. The Supreme Court on the 16th of April told the Election Commission to publish a supplementary roll and include voters whose appeals have been accepted by the appellate tribunals. The Election Commission published a list in which, out of 27 lakh appeals that it had received, it has reinstated 136 voters. 27 lakh people appealed with documentation, and the Election Commission reinstated 136 voters, which means that appeals are pending. In the very least, it means that they've not been able to actually look through each appeal, check all of the documentation, and decide whether or not to reinstate. So a lot of people say that this was done badly, timing was done badly, we should have been given a chance to appeal, we should have been given a chance to vote. The controversy is actually hit home in Mamata Banerjee's own constituency in Bhawanpur, where she is actually going up against Suvendu Adhikari of the BJP, and there the SIR exercise has taken out 25% of the rolls. So earlier, this particular constituency had 206,295 voters, and tens and thousands of names have been removed, and that is turned into a huge question now. So apparently there are different categories of deletions. This is a sidestep. So one category is people who are absent, they no longer live in the state, or duplicate voters, so you're registered in two different places. But apparently the third category is logical discrepancy. So for example, if your name doesn't match, the spelling doesn't match your husband's name, and some people have said that because of the confusion between between your maiden name and your married name, if there's been some confusion about, in some cases, the father's age is too young to have had the child, so there's not enough difference between the parents' ages and the children's ages. So these are the logical discrepancies. But apparently in Mamata Banerjee's constituency, critics are saying there's an extremely high rate of logical discrepancies, specifically among the Muslim community, and Mamata Banerjee has directly attacked the BJP and the Election Commission on the issue. She's alleged that voters from the minority and migrant communities are being targeted, and she has called this an attempt to divide Bengal on religion and caste lines. Trinamool Congress General Secretary Abhishek Banerjee has promised that when his party returns to power, they will restore the voting rights of all of these people. So let me just give you a breakdown as it stands right now. So for Mamata Banerjee is the idea of, we are Bengali, we have to protect what is Bengali, they're coming at us from Delhi, they're going to change us, they're going to wipe out our culture and our literature and our history, and they're trying to take us over and turn us into what the rest of India looks like, and that's what we have to protect. On the BJP side, the argument is, listen, you've had this really slow, really corrupt government for the last 15 years. This is your chance to boot them out. We will bring you a government that is efficient. We will bring you a government that works in tandem with the national government. We will bring you basically the Narendra Modi model of governance and of speed. And that is really the fundamental promise. I want to break down for a minute also and look at the voter bases of both of these parties. So on Mamata Banerjee, like I told you, her strongest, most reliable vote bank is women. Now, obviously, she's worked on this vote bank for a while. Women voters have consistently voted for TMC in very large numbers. They've been given cash support, they've been given healthcare support, and this is something that the BJP has come after the defeat of the Women's Reservation Bill / delimitation in Parliament. They've effectively pushed the idea that Mamata Banerjee is anti-women. Now, it will be a question to see how much time they have had to seed that idea in the minds of the Bengali people who have effectively lived with Mamata Banerjee for 15 years. So one could argue that they know her really well, and if she is anti-women, they probably already know that. The other group of people that vote for the TMC are Muslims. So the Muslim community makes up 27% of Bengal's population, and they're a crucial block of votes for the TMC. And the TMC benefits from the fact that they have built in a fear of the BJP in the minds of the Muslim population, basically saying that they will remove your citizenship and they will do this infiltration politics, and we are the only ones who can protect you from that. So it's possible that they will consolidate that entire vote, also because the alternatives are very weak. So the Congress or the left is extremely weak, and they will not have the ability to cut through the TMC and take some of that vote for themselves, which they should have been able to do if they were slightly stronger, but they really are not. So it's become a binary fight between the BJP and the TMC. And the TMC, the more the BJP brings the idea of we will remove the Guspets, the more the TMC will be able to consolidate the Muslim vote in its favor. Then, of course, there's the rural poor with the welfare benefits, and TMC has given a lot of direct benefit transfers, so money going directly in people's accounts, local patronage networks and matters. So TMC's ground machinery is very strong. Now, I want to just take a minute to say that Bengal is a deeply political state. It has always been. From the days of our fight for independence, and then post that partition, and then post that as well, it has always had a very strong ground machinery base of politics, and that ground machinery is also regularly turns into local thugs. They turn into local strongmen. They, there is violence involved, there is bullying involved, there is silencing of criticism involved in the villages at the village level. And this group has moved from Congress to then serving the left, then serving the TMC, and now this split between the two parties that are currently contesting. But this is what Bengal has always been. If you go back to the history of every election, it's always marred with violence in some way. So there is a small aspect of the TMC's local organization being able to bring in some scheduled caste and scheduled tribe communities as well, but it's not as strong as the other communities that I mentioned a little earlier. Now, let's take a look at the BJP's voter base and what that looks like. Now, the BJP's voter base in Bengal is newer, fragmented, but it's growing really quickly. So this is the base that's really turning into something very, very quickly. And that is based on the idea of Hindu consolidation cutting across all castes. The BJP's biggest play in Bengal is to unite the Hindus, the upper caste, the OBCs, and a section of the Dalits driven by religious identity politics and anti-infiltration narrative. Us versus them. This is a really important, and the idea is also that people have felt this way for a long time, and now they have a space to voice it. And so if the BJP manages to consolidate the upper caste, the OBC Hindus in Bengal, they will have a voter base that will amount to something in terms of numbers. Then there is the Matwa community, which is a refugee origin Hindu community that lives in Bengal, highly sensitive to the CAA citizenship protest, and the BJP has invested a lot of time and effort into this very strategic vote bank. The urban middle class is another aspect. So Kolkata, Asansol, Siliguri, these areas where corruption matters, where governance matters, where there is a deep pro-Narendra Modi sentiment, where there is this argument that we need to have more jobs, we need to have more development. Why do our kids have to leave and go live in Bombay and live in Delhi and live in Bangalore in order to work? Why don't we have those jobs right here? This is where those arguments are coming from that urban middle class that is very likely to vote for the BJP for these things. The North Bengal belt, which is a stronghold for the BJP from that 77 seats that we talked about in the last election, Darjeeling, Jalpaiguri, Coach Behar, all of these areas, ethnic, regional, economic grievances are playing a very important role. And of course, people are angry. There is that anti-incumbency with the TMC, corruption, local strongman politics, like I told you, law and order issues. So all of these things are what the BJP is looking at consolidating in order to build its vote. Now, if we pull up that chart from the beginning again, the TMC with 48% vote share, the BJP with 38% vote share, and a difference of just 10. The current estimates based on what people are saying on the ground is that the TMC is likely to wind up with 43% vote share, which is lower than what it had last time. The BJP will likely go up to 40% vote share, which means that they'll come closer to each other, and the BJP will have a gap that is narrowing sharply, and there may be a 2%, 3% swing in a dozen odd seats. So this is how the state is split. TMC has women, they have the Muslim vote, they have the minority vote, the Christian community, they have welfare beneficiaries, and they have Bengal identity. On the other side, the BJP is consolidating the Hindu vote. It has a big anti-incumbency play, and of course it has the Modi factor and the idea of we will stop the infiltration from coming in as a big promise. I want to take a look at what people have promised voters, but it's 19-20. People are like, okay, if I vote for this guy also I will get, if I vote for this person also I will get. So it's not really that much of a difference effectively. So for example, the Trinamool Congress has promised 1,500 rupees to young people. The BJP promised 3,000 rupees for young people who don't have jobs. Congress has said we'll give 2,000 rupees. The left has said we will give one job per family. So everybody's promised something, and the promises are all very different from each other. Healthcare, jobs, insurance, women's safety, very similar promises on all of those fronts. But there are two interesting developments that I want to bring before you, and this is not directly to do with the election, but there's buzz happening on a couple of other points, right? On one hand, there's been stone pelting at a BJP car. There was one BJP functionary who was assaulted by local villagers. So there's some violence that's already been building in. The Election Commission has planned what is being described as the highest ever deployment of Central Armed Forces in West Bengal. 2.4 lakh personnel are expected to be stationed across the state. That's about 2,500 companies per phase. The Union Home Ministry has approved 450 companies of the paramilitary force, including the CRPF, the BSF, the CISF, the ITBP and the SSB. And the forces are not just guarding the polls, they are also conducting, nomination exercises, route marches, voter confidence, and this really tells you how the Election Commission is viewing Bengal this time. And that in itself is telling us something about, Bengal's own electoral history, like I told you, where violence, intimidation has been part of the fabric for a very long time, but also the Election Commission, I don't know whether it is expecting violence or it's expecting bad behavior, or this is preemptive, but there seems to be a change in the tone. Mamata Banerjee has responded to this saying, I don't know why they're bringing in so many people, we don't need it, they're trying to intimidate me, and she's asked for the people of Bengal to sort of vote to show your power. The other thing that I thought was, interesting, in April, a 4-member delegation of the Trinamool Congress went and met Chief Election Commissioner Gyanesh Kumar about the SIR exercise. Apparently, according to what two of these people said on social media, that meeting did not last even a few minutes. It turned confrontational. Derek O'Brien was there, Saket Gokhale was there apparently, and when they raised the fact that 27 lakh voters were marked under adjudication, what happened next, according to Saket Gokhale from his social media post and Derek O'Brien, apparently the election commissioner told them to get lost within a few minutes of that discussion, and he said, show us the minutes of the meeting. It was apparently an 8-minute meeting. The Election Commission did not confirm that that was actually said. What the Commission said instead, immediately after that meeting is, and I quote, this time elections in West Bengal will be fear-free, violence-free, intimidation-free, inducement-free, without any raid, boot jamming or source jamming. And the tone of that message really stood out, because what the Election Commission is doing effectively is pushing back against the Trinamool Congress, and it just feels like a really heated sort of environment where they're bringing in these forces, where the Trinamool Congress is saying, hey, listen, you're being really unfair on the ground. Now, the third aspect that I want to bring before you here is the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court stepped in after that Malda episode I told you, where 7 judicial officers were effectively held hostage for 9 hours by villagers who just locked them when they had gone to do this SIR exercise. When the matter came before the Supreme Court, the bench led by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court said basically that the West Bengal Law and Order Administration had failed. And the court described this incident as, and I'm quoting, pre-planned, calculative and motivated, and said it appeared as an attempt to intimidate judicial officers. And the judges didn't stop there. They questioned the role of the state officials, asked why there was no timely rescue effort, and in a sharp observation it said Bengal appears to be, and I quote, the most polarized state in the country, warning that such incidents directly challenge the authority of the judiciary itself. The Supreme Court then put out a long list of directions on how the SIR process actually has to be completed. And it was significant because the Supreme Court stepped in and pointed out that it believes something had seriously gone wrong on the ground, effectively reinforcing the BJP's idea of the fact that law and order had failed in Bengal, that it has collapsed. For the Trinamool Congress, it adds pressure to defending not just its politics, but also its governance. So there are big players here. There is, of course, Mamata Banerjee and the Prime Minister, but there is also the Election Commission, there is also the ED, there is also all of these police officers who have been brought in, the reserve forces, and there's a Supreme Court that's also looking at these matters actively as they happen. But in the meantime, voting will go on. Interestingly, when I spoke to people from the TMC, they said that they're confident, in spite of those 91 lakh deletions, that they will still win. The BJP feels that it has a real chance in Bengal as well. So effectively, it could be anybody's contest, although opinions right now suggest that the Trinamool has a slight advantage, or the TMC does have a slight advantage. There are some polls that have projected TMC winning 161 out of 294, which is just past that halfway mark, not as strong as it was last time, but still safely enough to form the government, and that the BJP will have 124, Congress 9 and left 0. Now, what's striking is that the TMC will have the lead, but its vote share will shrink quite drastically, which is why Bengal seems like such an interesting fight going in right now with all of these various things at play. It's going to be really interesting to watch and see what happens in Bengal. And of course, those results will come on the 4th of May, which we'll be tracking for you very clearly. Leave me a comment in the comment section of what state we should look at next. If there's anything you feel we should be discussing about these elections. We've got a great sort of team that we're putting together for the final results day, where we're going to be watching and counting the results together. But happy to actually break down other states as well in the same way. And also, finally, let me know what you think. TMC or BJP in West Bengal? Where's your bet?